All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another dev stream. We are going to be doing some more work on Onitar as per usual. And also as per usual, the lighting's a bit whack. That should improve things a little bit. Just a little bit. We got some DF thing in the chat for the first time in a while. We got some Shirklastic Truing in the chat for the first time in a little while as well, which is pretty exciting. Because also, for the first time in a little while, I'm not going to be spending the entire stream doing data entry. So we're going to do some refactoring. We're going to do some changes, little bits and bobs here and there. And we're also going to check out, of course, let's move this back over here. And let's close this. And I can leave that open on my other monitor. And let's go back to what we were doing. So, as I was saying earlier, we're going to be taking a look at the GitHub repo, see if Veek has pushed anything. Doesn't look like it, which leaves us in a pretty good spot. And hey, look at that. We got a rainbow, or at least an achromatic rainbow, of OK hand emojis. So welcome, Luciferius. All right, we can close that out. Now, I was going to go somewhere with that, but I don't remember where I was going to go with that. So, there are two things that we're going to be doing today that are notable. So, thing one, as far as data entry goes, and then we'll get into number three, because three is item concepts. Item is in all caps because I'm very excited about that. But number one is to convert splash to singular field. Quick job in weapons.def. That'll be pretty easy. Number two is to overhaul orders.def for entity names. This is not something that I'm 100% sure of how far to take it. So hopefully by this point, when I'm super deep in it, Veek has joined the stream and can walk me through some of the things that he would like to do. But for the most part, this is going to be aimed at making it a little bit easier to link entities between other entities. For example, we have the order stimpack. This is eventually going to look like Maverick stimpack, or it could also potentially look like Maverick ability 1 or something, or just ability if there's no integers. I'm not sure what would be the more immediately obvious and useful description. Part of me thinks that the name of the ability is useful because it still includes the keyword of the unit. So you can search Maverick or you can search Stim, and either one of them will get you to the thing that you need to get to. So if you do remember the ability name, you can search that. If you remember the unit name, you can search that. And that's a lot more useful than searching, passive or active or ability or whatever. So this is probably what we're going to be looking at. It might even just be in complete snake case instead of the hyphen. And that would be like one example of being able to know the standardization. Oh, if there's a spacebar, it's going to be an underscore or something like this. So we'll probably do that. We'll probably do lower snake case. Unit name, ability name. So these are the things that we're going to be doing today, for the most part. So I hope you internalize those. We'll jump into weapons. So if you don't remember, the reason why we were doing this splash thing is because originally we had inner and outer as separate fields. You can probably find that if I just search inner, you'll find it here. So this is an example of like inner and outer. So really all we need to do here is convert this to splash 0.5, 1.5 and delete the inner and outer fields. It's going to be very basic. I could probably even like automatically rewrite this process, but instead I will just do it manually because I don't actually think that we need to worry about it as much. Now, I will say, if I search inner some more, let's do this, splash. I'm not actually sure about how we're going to approach hooking this up in-game, because maybe they both do the same thing, and I'm just not aware of that. That could very well be the case. But in any event, should be over pretty soon. I personally like this syntax. It isn't exactly very verbose if you don't know what inner and outer do, or what they are, or whatever. But I think it works. These are all in tiles, by the way. So they are converted from the pixel count from Brood War. I'm actually not sure how to feel about that in the grand scheme of things. Because it's obviously not as immediately clear when you look at it what is going on. For example, if I look at this and I think like, oh, 0.7, that's harder for me to know than whatever the amount, like in this case, if we were to divide or multiply. I don't really know that 0.7 is equivalent to 22.5 pixels, almost. So. All right. This is done. Let's move on to orders. As mentioned previously, it doesn't look like we even provided this order anywhere. Do I just not have a bunker unit bunker? I guess I never actually made the bunker unit, which is pretty funny. So we'll go ahead and, oh, wrong one. Although comedic, not what I was going for at all. I guess I might do like common _ garrison or something. I'm not sure if that would really be that useful, but for now we'll just leave it as garrison because it's pretty easy to swap that out later. This is really the same as the Watchdog? Oh, I guess so. Cost-wise, anyway. Oh, another inaccuracy is that we have this listed as hit points in here, but I believe in items it's just listed as HP. This is mostly because when Veek was setting up the data stuff for items def, he felt hit points _ regen was too wordy and not even necessary. I mean, it's technically accurate, right? But HP regen is more instantly clear, and so he decided to make this HP instead, which means he might just change hit points in units to be the same way. I'm not sure, but it's just something that I figured I would throw out there. So we got armor 1, speed 0, turn rate 0. We'll say weight 6, and weight capacity 4. I don't think weight and weight capacity are actually internalized yet. We'll say plain ground structure. And then this is where I actually should pull open unit stat from Brood War and jump into the bunker. Of course, it doesn't default me into the search bar because it's a good program. Go to graphics, 32, 32, 24, 16. There we go. All right, that's all we needed. Get out of here, Python. Blech. What's up, Patrick? Emotion, we change HP _ regen to HPR. That's even less verbose and understandable for the end user, I think. I suppose we could do aliases, but that obviously also instantiates the expectation that you would have some code that's more annoying to read, or some data entries that are more annoying to read. I suppose at some point it's kind of a formality because we'll have a GUI that's going to be much more performant for this sort of thing. Much more efficient for this sort of thing than text editing. normally experienced users, developers will be like, what? Text editors are always more performant. But our data structure is involved enough that I think we definitely need to have a GUI that is able to easily link you between entries, similar to how PyDat works, where if you need to go find something that an entity that's referenced by another entity, you can just do so. Where when you're trying to figure out what flags you can add, you can just look at a list of flags and then tick those boxes without needing to remember the exact wording of them, or relying on autocomplete, or what if there's a flag that you haven't even used in your definition file, all these other things. So eventually the GUI will come out and it will definitely be, pretty useful. You reported a crash when trying to build the bunker. Well, there is no bunker unit, so I don't even know how the bunker was buildable in the first place. Oh, you know what it is that yeah. So I created the order for building a bunker, but I didn't actually do that. So yeah, fully condensed regeneration. I guess what it could be is like hit points and then hit point _ regeneration or regen. Would be pretty funny to get people triggered by the fact that there's no S on HPR or whatever HPR turns into. But we'll think about that. I'll add that to the considerations. Hit point regen and hit points. That's mostly because I actually think just typing HP, well, visually it's really hard to know that there. It's hard for me to instantly look at like items def. Oop, I just closed it. That's why it's hard for me to look at it. It's hard for me to instantly look at items def and be like, where's the HP? Where is it? I can't find it. Oh, I scrolled past it because, it's literally 2 bits of text. There you go. Like, I'm scrolling through this. I'm looking for HP. It's kind of hard. But it's kind of hard to see a lot of stuff. So I don't know if that's really a fair complaint. Anyway, I'm not really that worried about it, but. Okay, Magmite cost, Hyperval cost, build time, hit points, armor, sight. Oh, sight is something I didn't do. Let's do sight of 8. And then you got speed, turn rate, weight capacity, plane, and collision. Okay, that should be good for the bunker. And now it points to the garrison. So if we jump back to orders here, go back to this. Oh yeah, this is the other thing that I have to do now, right? I think the system here is kind of annoying for obvious reasons. Is that I am going to need to have a label for every single entry, but I think that's actually okay. It makes a lot more sense when you're looking at something that isn't like a common ability, so. And then there's stuff like this where, bounce attack. This would be like bounce attack Zerg. We'll just make a clone of it, right? And this, instead of Terran, this might just be normal or something. Or just bounce attack. Oh, bouncing attack. Stuff like that might be useful, I don't know. Yeah, I guess you might exactly be correct there, DF. That just happens because it's a massive text document. Yeah, I agree, Balethal. Also, welcome, Balethal. Also, welcome, Fagudo. Big smoochies. All right. Now, I think actually stuff like garrison and evacuation, I guess, is probably fine to be a passive icon. Garrison will probably more so be a flag. It will, however, have to be a button for you to be able to like garrison the target that you're clicking on or whatever. But I'm just trying to think of like long term. Some of these are probably going to get, moved around or whatever. So it doesn't look like root was actually used. We'll go ahead and replace this with actually don't know if I even added order borrow to anything else. Something that's kind of annoying is that I've been trying to put orders closer to the unit name because that's where the weapons go, and I figure weapons and orders and like abilities make sense to sort of mix and match with one another. This is something that also won't matter nearly as much when we actually have a what would you say? When we have a state of affairs where we can actually use a GUI instead of a text document, that won't matter at all, and we'll just have stuff that is automatically handled. You can still edit it directly in text if you want, but when the data editor pops open, it'll probably like comment out broken lines or something to avoid corruption issues. Those abbreviations won't obscure things too much, though. Yeah. We were just sort of throwing around ideas, basically. And DF was being sarcastic when he initially suggested it, which, of course, text is not the best form of communication. So I look like a dummy when I was like, oh, I don't know about that one. Biggest thing that helps you personally is just the organization. Entry is always above armor. Oh, yeah. Well, it's basically what I was just mentioning, is that I was trying to reorganize order and stuff so that it was always in the right spot. Like in this case. Oh, and maybe in this case it actually, when you have like a giant list of them, it actually makes more sense probably to move them down, now that I think about it. Maybe I was the one who started moving them down then, and then I just forgot about that. Jesus. I wasn't expecting that one, was I? It's because we use orders for buttons in addition to other things, right? So not just abilities. So, I mean, I guess I could keep them in both spots, but that just looks ugly. So, what's up, Shambleman? Welcome to the stream. I finally worked around the Twitch issue that was being discussed in the previous stream where I can't actually access it on my browser by giving my other Twitch account editor access, which is probably a security risk, so please don't hack me. But for the most part, I think it'll be fine. So yeah, the reason why there was a crash for the homeboy, Fagudo, building a bunker. Oh, I never added the thing here. But yeah, the reason why there was that issue is probably just because the bunker didn't exist. All your Bitcoin is mine. Yeah, true. All 0 of my Bitcoins. Okay, anyway, back to this. Did I actually use Leith Organelle? I thought so. Hey, that's mine. Enjoyers of Hoop Thrower's birthday map will know what I'm referencing. Also, order observance is pretty funny. So in this case, this should be This should definitely be common observance. This is another reason why I think it makes sense to prepend a certain classification to it. Although it could also be a suffix instead of a prefix. I'm thinking something like this makes sense. Anyway, this should be common complete observance. Because then I at least know it's an ability that's shared by multiple units. At the same time, it avoids issues like what I was just referencing, where if I go to unit seraph, this guy has common complete observance, right? He also has an ability called observance, because originally complete observance was just called detection or being a detector. So eventually I'm going to have to get rid of that, but I can also just type in seraph observance, seraph irradiate, and I guess Terran nuclear strike, right? So this is sort of like our ability list here. Big keyboard energy. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, with the GUI as well, it would just rename the order name for us automatically anyway, so. Figure I'll do common. This is also common bounce. Well, I guess this would just be Zerg bounce attack. Yeah. I feel that way sometimes if I'm up at like, 12 or 1 a.m., which is usually the latest I stay up these days so that I can actually sleep. I do feel that way sometimes, though. So bounce, attack, Zerg. I have to jump back over here. And this should be common bounce attack. Oh, this actually is the Zerg section, I just realized. Oh, wait, no, it isn't. Oh, because burrow is also used by other things, that's why. Like mines and stuff. Easy enough. Yeah, this is also going to be common among other workers, right? Theoretically, anyway. That was more vague because at one point I thought, well, obviously at one point that passive was for all Ovaleth strains, the resource injection one. Now it's just for the Irileth, so I can change it to Irileth endomorphic accelerant instead of the other way around. Here we have Gosvaleth, Plethorol, Gestation. Sire, Ectomorphic Accelerant. Alazaleth, Thermal. Intestinal Infinity, by the way. I overused adrenal stuff. Have to figure that one out. Toilet flushing energy. You talking about map crap, homie? Or are you talking about flushing the toilet at 5 a.m.? Because that does feel pretty loud. I think even God would probably run out of intestines eventually. Taco Bell does stuff to you. Okay, I did actually change the name in there. It's interesting. I just missed it in the website, I guess. Yeah, let there be toilet paper. We're almost 1/3 of the way done, I think. We're a little bit more than that, because I also did the shared and common stuff. Had to remember the spelling in that one. After changing the Defiler's name, the ability names became really weak by comparison. I was just considering that I could have made my work a bit easier by automating the creation of the label field. I still can, but it's not going to be as automatic now. I guess I should be explicit, add in all of the text of the label, rather than skimp out. Also, I haven't even really been looking to see if there's already a label field, so that may prank me, but I think most of that was in the Terran section, actually. Pranked. It was going so well for a while. I will see you soon, homie. Also, I'm really excited about the banter possibilities. So there's a suite of sounds, unit responses that will be recorded for all units, and they include banter. And some of you may remember when I was doing the initial recordings for stuff like the new Hierophant lines and the new Legionnaire lines, the new ones, by which I mean stuff that I probably added in 2019 or 2020. But it was a while back indeed. I guess it probably would have been 2020 now that I think about it. However, the significance of that is that, for example, they have more than one ready line, which we already have implemented in the game. We don't have the banter system implemented yet, but it's going to be really exciting when we do end up getting it there, just on the basis of, like, the fact that we don't have to worry about... Well, it just adds a lot of impact to the way that you perceive the theme of a unit. So, when a Hierophant starts, laughing victoriously, for lack of a better term, or says something like "the fate of all fools" as he executes a unit that was running away from him. If you're the player who owned the Hierophant, you're like, "Fuck yeah!" And if you're the player who owned the unit that was killed, you're like, "Oh shit!" It just adds that extra bit, I think. I'm very excited about the potential there, anyway. This is Crucible, Kadarin Charge, and this is Pennant Prismatic Surge. You definitely see me typing, homie. But don't worry, that's not what I'm doing for all of this stream. In fact, I'm making pretty good time. I don't know if it is. Most people would probably just hate this particular one, to be honest. But welcome anyway, Milestone. And welcome, Night of the Room. Honestly, some of the stuff that I do in the background while I'm talking with Veek, for example, it's pretty insane. Like, I don't know how he puts up with it. He's just used to it, I think. I'll just be like in a noisy grocery store or whatever and like talking with him, and he'll just be like, yeah, cool, or whatever. Pour one out for the homie. Oh, it's already got a label. Terran, nuclear strike. I guess I can leave it where it is, but it would probably make more sense if I moved it up to... Yeah. Should probably be a bit more basic. The nuclear strike. Mike in a hat. Oh yeah, check out Mike's hat, guys. Can we get a mic cam? There you go, just slight zoom in, that's all you got. That hat actually slinked back a bit. He used to be wearing it a little bit more forward. Oh yeah, we have like, as far as viewers go, we've got Shirk, Roller Skates, who's not here right now, at least if he is, he's not typing, and Shambler are all in Texas. And there might have even been another one, but it basically like it was majority Texas for one of the streams, which is pretty funny. Oh, that's what this is. This is nuclear missile ground zero. This is missile silo scorched earth. The pretense of Texas, exactly. Oh yeah, shout out to DF who updated the ion cannon attack animation and icon recently. Well, the icon was already updated, but I forgot to add it or didn't get it or something. Pretty cool. Glad to have it. Okay, they're all renamed. So now I just need to go through the units def list over here and name them there. However, this does not include the changes to the item abilities. That will be its own prank that I'll do probably later. Not now, though. My hands are going to cramp up way harder. So what does the No Frauds Club, Inc., TM's meeting structures / working routines look like so far, by the way? So I'm free pretty much every morning to do some work on stuff. That changes a little bit with the holidays. To be honest, we don't really have a very organized structure or anything. I just do work every day, and Veek has been doing work every day recently, and generally does at least some work every day. Or most days, the vast majority of days. Obviously, there's some stuff that he eventually gets involved in, he might do some stuff where he's working on something completely unrelated to the Frauds Club. As do I. I'll work on a StarCraft map or something that has no bearing on this, right? But yeah, I'm always doing work either on Antikythera or on data structure stuff like what I'm doing now on stream, or on concepts, or on planning. And then Veek is usually doing work on the engine, and so we are getting there. I think after the New Year's roll around and we're through the holiday season, we'll probably reconvene and ask each other what needs to be done, right? And obviously, there's a period of time where DF was unavailable, and now we are, at some point, I might, he's obviously in the chat right now, I might end up, bringing him in for some of those conversations that Veek and I do, and ask him, to what degree he's interested. That's not a conversation we need to have right now necessarily, but it's just one of those things where, rolling into the new year, we are going to be looking to do some modeling and stuff, obviously some art generation for the new games, and at least getting some placeholder meshes would be pretty useful. That's probably where I'll also be tagging Night of the Realm in again, with some concepts of my own, and some visual concepts that he can hopefully get some top-down view. Basically, there are 3 different camera views that DF prefers to have reference art for, and if Night of the Realm can generate that from my ideas, and then DF can generate the models that get turned into sprites from Night of the Realm's drawings from my ideas, then that's a pretty reasonable pipeline where it only involves 3 people. And then it shouldn't technically take too long if all of us are available at the same time. I can also create the concepts and then mostly sit back until Night of the Realm gets around to starting on them, at which point I can be tagged in for further information and clarification and stuff. And then, DF can do the initial mesh and then we can talk about that or something. We just haven't figured out the art pipeline, right? So that's something that we definitely want to just make that not an ambiguous, unknown thing. We want to actually solve for that, at least somewhat, to get some idea of what it's all about. So the short answer to that is we'll probably be more organized. I think we have to become a bit more organized and a bit more formalized going into the next year. I'm not sure to what degree it will be that much different at the end of the day. I've already sort of settled into a pretty soft schedule of doing work every day, and particularly in the mornings, because even if I have to pick up some gig work to pay the bills in the meantime, I can do that in the afternoon, at least so far. We'll see if that changes as well. Yeah, homie. There's some pretty cool ideas, man. I'll tell you that much. We definitely want to... we want to go pretty far with what we have right now, and we can. It's just going to be we have to get pretty good at doing it somewhat efficiently without sacrificing quality. So that's always the big problem, right? Is if you want something done to a high degree of quality and very quickly, that's obviously something where usually you have to pay for it. Now, ideally, if we're really competent individuals and we can manage our time well, we can worry about the pay part when the game comes out. Right, DF, and that's why I was saying it's not a conversation we have to have right now. I was mostly just figuring out, shadowboxing, what would have to happen. If we were to start getting a super consistent art pipeline, you'd probably be involved, just based on the skill set that you've built up and all that. The degree to which we will be, heavily focused on that or whatever is still yet to be determined. There we go. Hold the bad. $1 billion sales. Yeah, I like that. I actually wonder what we'll do about these builds or whatever. That might change later as well. Definitely added a bit of inconsistency to the current definitions. That will change at some point later. You know, I noticed I didn't actually do Babylon plating. I wonder if that is still even a passive I decided to add. I think it is. If I find the tank, the phalanx. It is, but it's just not on the website, I guarantee you. Or if it is, I didn't see it when I was... You know what? It probably is on the website, and what happened was I probably didn't click on the siege tank, the phalanx, because I had the siege mode, and yeah, it's here. And I just pranked myself, so... Easy. All right, Shambleman, if you pop back in during our concept work that we'll be doing after this, I'll see you then. And if not, I'll see you next time. Hope you're doing well, homie. It looks like I didn't grab the... didn't do this one, apparently. Lobotomy, 9... At some point, I should probably process the lobotomy mine icon using the DF script. That would only make sense. I downloaded this add-on that's supposed to automatically play and skip that dumb video pause continue watching thing, but it's not working. Which leads me to believe it's probably just a situation where the add-on doesn't work on my browser, which is a classic. Yeah, DF's primary reason for getting into modeling in the first place actually had little to do with our stuff in particular, and was mostly about his own work. Although it obviously helped us out massively. I mean, come on. Have you seen the ion cannon? Oh, I didn't know that. I just assumed you had done it mostly for your own modding and whatnot. Oh, I guess that's pretty cool that you decided to do that on behalf of our work. You know, we never really, DF, I just realized we haven't really consulted one another about, like, your involvement in the project. I think there were a few times where you mentioned, like, because I was talking about making an FPS at one point, and you were like, when you get around to doing that, I can do the placeholder assets and stuff. Which eventually I am probably going to take you up on at this point. Eventually we will be doing an actual FPS. But, like, I think I took that as, hey, want to do all of the other artwork? All the other modeling for all my other stuff too? And I never formally asked you that, now that I think about it. So, I thought that was kind of interesting, now that I think about it. Yes. Who could forget? It went from 2D stuff to 3D stuff. That's a very gross oversimplification, but... You know what? I just realized I haven't added Automaticus to the game. I can do... Oh, unfortunately I cannot do. Well, it's still in here somewhere. Icon 362. I think I changed the name to Odin Afterburners because I'm pretty sure Karen is like Greek or something. Yeah. And obviously Valkyries are Nordic, so owned IMO. Got my wires crossed. Is that also Nordic? I guess you would know, Mr. Sweden. Kadarin, more like Kadarian. Odin's horse. Oh, okay. Whoa. Don't look at that. Actually, it's fine. It's not a spoiler. That's exactly what I would say if it was a spoiler, but it isn't. I came up with a lot of abilities, guys. Did you know that? Oh, since more people are here now, I should restate a question I had in the previous stream. I was interested in people's opinions on some elements of Cosmonarchy Brood War that maybe didn't do the right thing or didn't work out. I gave the example of how a hole I noticed recently is that if you're looking for a melee or close range frontliner for Zerg, you're stuck at like tier 1 Zethar into Vorvor at tier 2 into eventually getting Ultra Cores. But Zoroastrians don't deal damage. And they also don't, I mean, they can tank a lot of hits themselves, but splash damage just irradiates most of the stuff that you have. So I was just noting, basically, that like that's a hole in the spot, right? It's hard to find like a proper increase. And more broadly speaking, that is basically the it's basically the way how, like that's how the new game is set up, right? Is that you're going to be replacing tier 1 units with the higher tier counterparts eventually of the same archetype. And so I think the most effective deployment of that was obviously like Maverick into Madcap into Olympian for Terran. Whereas like tier 1, 2, and 3, I'll have like a core infantry unit. But I didn't really do that for a lot of other cases. And that's okay. You don't need to, but like obviously Zealot into Amaranth is a case where, depending on which one you go, you could do Legionnaire into Amaranth as well. But you usually don't do both Zealots and Legionnaires. I guess you can. It can be quite confusing because there's no sprite for them. But you wouldn't normally do that, generally speaking, because they both cost minerals and they both kind of do the same thing. It just is a question of like, do you want mobility over stability or durability, right? And then Amaranths kind of do like, you know, a better job than both of them do just based on their stats and their passive. So they have that sustain. And so they're more effective if you can get more of those in. So that would be an example of like, there's another case where it's in place. However, it didn't really work out for Zerg the same way. I think probably the majority of what destroyed Zerg was probably that I had to spend so much time experimenting to find the right thing for I had to find a better model than like what I had for morphing a unit into another unit. And for a while I had that like morph this unit, into this other unit, and just keep going. And that didn't really happen, so. Hello, Maxaxa. Must be Greek. Yeah, so I'm not saying that every race should have every role filled. The idea is that if you have an archetype at tier 1, odds are that archetype will show up later on. And so the Terran example from Brood War is that we have the Marine, which is renamed to Maverick in Cosmonarchy Brood War. And then you can increase your, like, if you conceptualize space on the battlefield taken as a resource, then per space on the battlefield, you can get more value out of each space you take up by having better units in that space. And so when you're conceptualizing it that way, if you have the resources to spend, you can get more value out of an area that has a bunch of madcaps, which are the tier 2 version of the Maverick. In a way, they have different passives, or a different passive instead of the stim pack, which is an active ability. So that's a little bit different, but you kind of get where I'm going with this, hopefully. The idea is you have ways to do the same general combat role with some flourishes that make the unit a little bit different to handle, but generally better stats. And that replaces the concept of upgrading your army instead of having inalienable advantages like upgrades where you just push this button and then some minutes later you get an upgrade and an increase to damage, you now have a different unit, and that basically replaces what upgrades used to do. And so you do that for 10 tiers of tech is what we're planning in the full game. And so that's an average of 80 to 100 units per race. And that eventually gets the situation where if you do have a core unit that shoots, that's just a rifleman of some sort, then you eventually will have a tier 3, 5, 7, 9, however many tiers. I've done the every other rule for most of these conceptually. And so, eventually you go from like your average soldier that looks like kind of like a Marine from Brood War, then eventually that gets replaced with like a beefier, bulkier chain gunner, and that gets replaced with a fucking gun walker, and then that gets replaced with who knows what. And so like a fucking Gundam or something, I don't know. But the idea is that like they get replaced with not just bigger, better ones, but like, statistically better ones as well. More expensive ones as well. So the other important case here is like, if I, don't have enough money, I don't have enough income to keep training the tier 9 Marine, then I have to go back to the tier 7 or maybe further back down the tech tree because I only have enough income to support training stuff out of like the earlier tier production facilities or whatever. Well, Zerg has the option for heavy melee with ultra cores, but the problem is that they don't really have like an Archon type thing, or even a Pariah, which is a little bit closer to melee than Archon now, because Archon's got buffed range-wise, right? I think if they had an AoE melee unit, or not melee, but close range unit, sort of like how the Hurakan or Heracles works for Terrans, that would probably pad a lot of their issues. So if they had something like that in tier 2, where they could, evolve. I wonder what it would be coming from. Because Zoroastroliths are tier 2. So I can't make it a Zoroastrolith morph. So I'm trying to think if I was trying to fit in like an easy added unit or something. But yeah, that's basically the idea though, is like they need something to pad that, right? They need something that isn't a Zethra core morph or derivative, but still handles melee stuff. There are no upgrades in my RTS. Well, you can read all of the planning that we've done so far. I've done full game design documentation. So there's like this stuff, right? Which tells you about like control schemes and some other mechanics that we have. It's obviously the documentation isn't finished. And then if you go to the setting page, it also documents the mechanics that are at play in all of the games that we're going to make in this setting. And one of those includes a have-not section, which talks about how we don't have supply, and we don't have upgrades, we don't have squads, we don't have smart casting, acceleration. So there's reasonings in here as well as descriptions of what they are in case you're not familiar with what these terms mean. But most RTS veterans are kind of familiar with what they might mean, at least. But it goes through the reasoning. So I don't feel like it's possible to justify upgrades in large-scale games, or really any sort of scale of game, because the whole idea is that you have this permanent and inalienable advantage that also changes the power of units. So when you look at a unit in Brood War, you don't actually know how strong that unit is. You have to click on it, and then you have to update your mental model to assume that this unit is this powerful because I see these numbers on its attack card, its attack icon and defense icon. Also, there's going to be upgrades that aren't just stat buffs, right? There's going to be movement speed, which is a stat buff, but it's like a different upgrade. It's not like a tiered upgrade, right? And so now if I just see a unit, I don't actually know how fast it is until it starts moving. I don't know how much range it has until it starts attacking from its maximum range. And all of these other aspects, right? So there's these hard to gauge things. You can shore these up by making it so that the units visibly change when they have upgrades, which is something I was playing around with doing before deciding to remove upgrades. But the idea here is that, they make things very inconsistent. When you see a unit, you should basically know what this unit can do, even in the hands of a very skilled player. And so that will help you have a very consistent understanding of why, or like what that unit is capable of in combat. The upgrades tend to have like these arbitrary breakpoints where it's like, if you have one more weapon upgrade as Protoss, then the Zerg has armor upgrades, you can 2-hit Zerglings in Vanilla Brood War. That's something where I just like, that changes a lot about how the game works. And I understand that maybe that particular interaction was even deliberately balanced that way. But I don't find it ideal. I think it's actually better to just have consistent threat levels. Now, we do have different things that can increase stats on a temporary basis, which are like buffs, like status effects. And we have an armor pen system, which we discuss in the if we go to the weapons sections, there's armor pen, and we discussed that. But for the most part, like, these are all going to be fleeting effects that have timers, or they can be permanent effects, which are then, they're given by a unit, and you can debuff enemy units with certain other abilities, and there's like a whole different setup there. So that's a little bit different. That's not like a straight up buff or upgrade or whatever. But you're talking about, is there early game sacrifice for late game advantage? Yes. So the way that you scale up the tech trees in this, if I can go use the Ancifi thing as an example. So this is one of the races that we have. They're called regencies in this game because a lot of them contain more than one race of alien species. But here's the Ancifi. And as you can see, we've got plans, like I said, for 10 tiers of tech. We don't have all of the things filled out yet because I didn't finish conceptualizing all the units. But this is the most complete concept for a race so far, for a regency. And so here you can see the quarry is the town center, the worker production. It's the command center allegory from StarCraft. It doesn't have liftoff. But you can see here that there's like a successor thing. So you can click this and you can find out that there's a tier 4 town center that comes into play. Now, these don't actually unlock your tech. So what unlocks your tech are these other buildings like the dispatch, which is a tier 2 tech structure, which enables a bunch of things at the tier 2 level. So everything highlighted in blue here gets enabled. Everything highlighted in red builds it. So there's like tiered workers, right? We have apprentice and then we have mason down here. Obviously all the art is like placeholder. We don't have our own art yet. Now the trove is the tier 4 tech structure. You can start to see these costs going up, right? Now the ministry is 500 and 200. This might change. Again, this might go up. But the idea is that it's very expensive to tech up. However, when you tech up, you get access to a lot of really cool things. So you get access to all of these different units that are going to change how you can engage with stuff. One example would be the mountaintop. This is a hovercraft that can ignore it's a ground unit, but it ignores the terrain. So it will pass over cliffs, for example. And it's not exactly super fast. It's actually reasonably fast in terms of speed. It's not like the fastest unit in the game that's going to be like fighters that move faster than it, for example. And the fact that it can do that, plus it can fire at 2 targets at the same time, means that it's almost perfect. It's like perfectly positioned to be a worker harassment unit, right? So if you see somebody rushing the trove, and then you see that they've previously had some sort of production facility for vehicles, then you might be suspicious that they might be, hunting you down worker-wise or whatever, or harassing you or trying to take advantage of terrain near you. So that would be like one example where it's like it's not exactly super clear cut because they could be getting the trove for the academy or they could be getting the trove for the index, and these unlock different elements, right? So infantry and orbital units instead of just armor. But these are just various examples of where you can rush for tech and spend your money there. You can rush for an expansion, spend your money there. It's very much at scale. I'm expecting that in large enough maps that support it with a decent enough we're probably expecting something like 8 to 10 bases on average for players, assuming they've survived long enough to do that. And so you can imagine what that income would mean for spending a lot of money, right? And so that means that you will need to spend massive upfront costs to tech up in the first place. So that's a bit of a crash course. Yeah, as far as like timing windows and stuff, you're talking about like you want to make an early sacrifice for some sort of late game advantage. My best advice for you then would be to try to get some base defenses set up and maybe expand in safer locations. And then you basically have this gameplay loop where if that's your playstyle, if you really like to maybe turtle up a little bit and or like invest in something that's not immediately going to pay off, then you probably have to play a little bit more on the defensive side because whatever you've spent your money on isn't immediately giving you value. That's not just true of upgrades, that's true of everything. That's true of, building a production facility that maybe you don't have the resources to keep fully operational at all time because you don't have that income yet. You need to get your expansion up, right? So that would be an example of maybe you should update your timing or something. But there's going to be some times where you're going to get a tech structure, and that tech structure unlocks options that you need to then update over time. That unlocks a production facility you then have to build. You're not actually getting your money's worth for the tech center until after you start deploying units that were enabled by it. So that would be an example of an investment that doesn't pay off until later. And while you're doing that, there's this constant back and forth juggle in your head where you have to decide, is it time to tech up, or should I invest the money that I would be spending teching up because it's going to be very high upfront costs into expanding, into building more units at the tier that I'm at, into scouting, and whatever the case may be. So all of these have to factor into your decision making. It's going to lead to, I think, really interesting decisions overall. I don't know what that means, Luciferius, but I hope you are having a good time over there. Yeah, so high tier units would be an example of something you would want to spend your money on pretty frequently, right? So like these are all just conceptual, and we might change them over time. But an example of a pretty high tier unit is the Magnetar, which is a tier 7 cruiser. It's pretty expensive, as you can see here. It might even go up in cost from this point. However, the fact that it deals, it has 25 armor pen, which means a unit needs to have more than 25 armor to reduce damage. It doesn't mean that it deals 25 bonus damage, because armor pen doesn't get converted into excess damage. But it's, this fires pretty frequently. It has the Sun Chaser salvo. This is modeled after a unit that's already in Cosmonarchy Brood War, the Centaur. And so, you get this opportunity to deploy a unit of that size. Another classic example of this race's general idea is the Pavilion, which is an enormous platform that moves through the battlefield and that you can actually build structures on. So you can reinforce your position on the front line if you have production facilities built on this. So like different regencies have very different play styles in mind, and we're going to have 20 of them eventually, so they better all be pretty unique, right? The Ancifi are an example where their late game looks like literally rolling through the battlefield with entire bases pumping out units on the front lines and reinforcing from the front lines. They're going to have these long ships that deploy units at like dedicated locations where you yourself as the commander designate where the units are dropped off. Sort of like if you've played, I think Dawn of War probably has this. Command and Conquer I know has these like sort of support power type things where they're usually balanced off of a cooldown instead of something more emergent, but you can deploy units at like designated targets. Now in this case, you're actually building the longship, building the production facility on the longship, and then training the units, and then putting them in garrisons. And you can do this with like rally points and stuff, right? So it's not as involved as it maybe sounds like, but you're investing time into that, and then you're able to deploy them within a pretty large range around the ship and stuff. I'll know when I check my PayPal. Oh, did you 3 me? You triple 3'd me. You actually did triple 3 me. Well, Merry Christmas. One thing to consider with upgrades in particular is that it's a sharp, immediate jump in army power, whereas moving up in a tech tree in most games unlocks the ability to start building a new kind of unit, which means that increase in power is just about linear, whereas with upgrades, it's a step function. Yes, so that's exactly what I was talking about. However, it's not like you spend money and the upgrade is immediate, at least in Brood War, which is what this RTS mostly is influenced by. You actually have situations where essentially you're investing time in addition to other things. You're investing time and the upfront money cost of the upgrade structure, and then the upgrade itself. And that time is the most important aspect of that, I think. Where you've spent your money, but you don't get your money back until maybe a minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes away, depending on the upgrade. That's kind of the same thing here. Now, the monetary costs are going to be higher for teching up than they are for upgrading in Brood War. Like in Cosmonarchy retail, you're going to get a situation where, you're probably spending thousands of each resource to access the next tier of tech eventually. That's not going to be very uncommon, actually. So, as a result of all of that, you have to keep that in mind when you're trying to balance that, right? And that's one of the reasons why you need a lot of income, is because the thousands of resources sounds like a lot of units that you could be training, or at least a small number of really high tier units potentially. So if you're instead spending that on teching up, that's a decision you're making. I view it as kind of similar as making an upgrade. Now, sure, when the upgrade finishes, you immediately get your money's worth out of it, right? Whereas when the structure finishes, that time window is actually not done yet, because you then need to build whatever else you need to build in order to take advantage of that tech structure. But fundamentally, from sort of like the idea of like from seed to plate, or whatever, the idea from farm to plate, whatever, that process is still the same. It's just there's multiple steps in between it, right? So for an upgrade, it's build the production structure or build the upgrade structure and then research the upgrade. And eventually you just research the upgrade because you already have the production structure. So those are the steps. For teching up in this game, or in most games, it would be build the tech structure and then build the structures that are enabled by that tech structure, if applicable, and then build the units that are enabled by either the tech structure or the production structure that you built. And so you can see it's a little bit more complicated, a little bit more steps, but it's the same process of like spending your money and then waiting and then getting the payoff after. And if he can successfully hold off, larger numbers of tier 1 units as you attempt to rush a tier 2 tech structure or something to that effect, that can be very effective for you, right? That means that you then have the defender's advantage. You always have the defender's advantage, which is probably how you held off overwhelming numbers. Maybe you also just, you could say you exemplified some player skill by microing some units or something. And then you can start to beat back the unwashed masses of the enemy by training tier 2 units instead of tier 1 units. And that's when your money's value comes in. I guess there's some cases where the upgrade instantly taking into effect creates an interesting and exciting moment, but I don't think it's I think it's quite shallow if the player can do nothing about it. So my corollary for that for this game would basically be something like, here's an enemy specialist, and they have an ability that increases the speed of their allies under certain circumstances. And so actually we already have an example of this, although I haven't actually added the read for it yet, so it's a little bit wonky in-game. But there's a unit called the Zoroaster that I added for Zerg, and the Zoroaster has this passive Swarming Omen, which is when below 50% life, they grant 125% movement speed to all allies within 10 range, which is like half of the value. For example, the Hydralisk movement speed upgrade or the Zealot movement speed upgrade, it's like half of that value, basically. Obviously, it's a percentage, so it also scales better with faster units and worse with slower units. But you can kind of see why this would be useful, and based on the fact that it is a passive that triggers at a predetermined breakpoint, when you know what the mechanic is, like what the mechanism is for this passive happening, then you know that you can decide, okay, as a player who's playing against a player who's using Zoroaster, my enemy is using this unit, I can either focus them down really quickly so that the speed boost is temporary, or I can try to focus non-Zoroaster units that are going to benefit from it and position my army to receive large numbers of incoming Zerg so that I can then avoid getting owned and overwhelmed. But if I do neither of those things, then I spread my damage out and I damage the Zoroaster proccing the ability, but then don't focus it and finish it off, that's going to be a problem for me because then they can reinforce quicker, they can get to the front line quicker, and suddenly we're in deep shit. So this is sort of like the mental calculations you have to make. And in that situation, you're kind of getting the same mechanism of what you were talking about with a timing or a specific moment that causes units to gain some sort of strength. But you're doing so in a lot more of an organic way that actually has counterplay in this case because it's a frontline behavior. Or it required some setup from you. Another case would be the Matroleth, which used to be called Queen for Zerg. Has an ability called Ensnaring Brood, which when activated, applies a buff to all allies within the radius, which makes their attacks apply Ensnare to the enemy that they hit. This is obviously a very powerful ability, if you remember how much Ensnare slowed. I think I did reduce the slow a little bit, but it's a 12-second debuff, which is pretty powerful. Most debuffs are a lot shorter than that in this game, in this mod. And so this is an example where just by positioning your units in your army properly and proccing the behavior and then sending them into attack, you can do some pretty big damage. You can enhance your army pretty quickly. Now this debuff could be cleansed with some sort of counter. It could be negated by way of like being proactive and sniping the enemy Matroleths or reducing their energy somehow. But these are ways where we're basically taking the timing you're talking about. We're actually making it a lot more reproducible, a lot more consistent, and making it so that you actually have to do some sort of pre-planning to make use of it, and reactive, if you can react very well, then you can handle it, right? So. A co-op game about riding flying dogs. Well, that sounds pretty exciting, to be honest. I like dogs. We are big fans of dogs around here. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the ideas of upgrades in general. I think as a general rule, they don't end up adding all that much. Like, Faguta's talking about, he's making some reasonable points that I think I agree with as well. Upgrades don't work the same way that like a unit using an ability works, because a unit using an ability is something you can opt into and something you can have counterplay to. The only counterplay to upgrades is defeating your enemy before they get them or destroying the structure that is doing the upgrade. And these are really weird binary interactions, particularly the destroying the upgrade structure, because there was a time where I was trying to implement this mechanic into Brood War. Unfortunately, it's a closed source piece of shit game, so you can't actually do too much when you're attempting to program new things into it. There's a lot of limitations that are pretty arbitrary. But I was planning on doing something along the lines of making it so you could actually see what was in the queue if you had detection. So if you had an Overlord, for example, Ovaleth in Cosmonarchy Brood War, and you moved that next to the engineering bay that was doing the upgrade in a hypothetical world where we kept upgrades, or you were moving it next to a barracks that was training a Maverick, aka Marine, that would give you the opportunity to actually see what the progress was. It would actually draw it if you clicked on it. It would still be pretty clunky because like clicking on individual units to figure out what's going on with them is pretty bad. You probably should just draw, what do you call it? Like health bars and progress bars and energy bars and stuff. But for example, you can currently see enemy specialist energy counts if you have detection on them. That's something that we did add up. And this is a case where you can actually get information necessary to provide some sort of counterplay. But even in a world where you do have the information to make actions, like, oh, this upgrade is halfway done, so I should snipe the structure before it finishes. That's just pretty fucking weird that that's like even a mechanism in the game. Because if I have the mechanism to, like, you've spent the money on something that is going to have an instant effect if I let it finish, but I can stop it from finishing. And it's an instant global effect. It's not even like a localized effect like, oh, I finished this production facility and I can train units. Or I finished this defensive structure and it's going to start attacking my enemies. It's a global effect. I think that's probably what rubs me the most. Oh, and the other part is that even if I destroy the upgrade structure, your upgrades don't go away. Now, even if you did make it so that upgrade structures must exist in order for your upgrades to be enabled or whatever, that still is really weird and introduces its own set of issues. But the fact that you don't have any counterplay to it after it happens, and you don't even really get given the information necessary to make proper decisions usually in RTS games, I think these are pretty fundamental issues with the concept. And you can't opt out of them. That's the other big thing, is that you can't opt out of upgrades, right? They're a core thing that you must do if you want to remain competitive, particularly in longer games. You never plan to not make an upgrade unless you're all-inning, which is a very specific niche case. I'd prefer to make it such that if I want the benefit of what was an upgrade in Brood War, that I should get a unit that provides that benefit to my other units, or I should do something else that does that, right? And I can then opt away from that and then instead go to a higher tier unit that does something else if I want that strategy or that asset for my strategy instead. Yeah, the very temporary chance to stop it, I think, is pretty rough. That's probably the biggest issue, is that it's just really hard to... It's very hard to do a lot of things with that, I think. I don't know if I actually... Okay, I did call it that. I might just make that a general Zerg behavior now that I think about it. Let's do Zerg regression. If we do decide to actually implement stuff, oh, never mind. If we do decide to implement actual StarCraft stuff into the new engine in the meantime, I think it would be interesting to see how the how it all worked out at the end of the day. It's neat to me to think about stuff like the egg rework. So instead of having larvae, I was just going to have egg slots on the structures. This is something I'm going to do for the Orlith Ray, I think, or some other regency inside Cosmonarchy. But I think that fixes a lot of issues with pathfinding and other stuff. This is where I have to do order Zerg. Oh no, it's wait, what is it? Yeah, it is Zerg mutation. Interesting idea for detectors being able to see what's queued up. It was thought it was strange some. Well, I just added production. Well, I initially added it, and then DF did a much better job of it. I just added work animations to everything so that you can just see. Upgrade structures included, although you can't see it now because we don't actually use upgrades. Like the idea that Citadel of Adun is researching a really important upgrade, but you can't tell is like really dumb, right? So yeah, long time ago, I fixed that problem just by making it more consistent. That is technically a balance change, but Cosmonic Brood War adds like 100 new units, so that's not exactly what we were worried about. Hey, don't forget Stargates. That's a more recent change. Oh, well, I guess they always had it, but he made it prettier. That's what I was thinking. I guess I put this before Zethricore for some reason. I don't know why I did that. That's really weird. Pranker IMO. Well, Blizzard was too lazy to do a lot of things, man. They were too lazy to remove like a single pixel on the armory and the supply depot and the command center that are just out of place. The armory one even made it to the wireframe. It's pretty incredible, to be honest. I'm really looking forward to getting the Malkothra implemented at some point. That's the oh, I was in the wrong one. That's the giant worm that does segments. I wonder why I changed the name to Fertile Prey. I'll change it back to spines. I guess I was probably trying to move away from like... Oh, fertile spines is the name of the weapon. That's probably why. Almost done with this data entry, and then we can do some actual fun stuff. Yeah, the copy pastes are pretty embarrassing. I like the I do heavily enjoy the rendering the scout with perspective on and other junk like the ramps and stuff. It's pretty hilarious. Okay. So this is done. Accept items. AAA quality for that time. No, dude. That is pretty funny. I like when people are legitimately still anti basically the people who have not yet been crow-pilled about the goddamn Activision situation where they still use Activision as the excuse. Like, no, bro. Blizzard's cool, man. Blizzard's really cool, guys. Bleh. Oh, don't remind me about Woolard. In fact, I think there's a choice comment on the Stardate.net DLDB. Where is it? Also anime, by the way. The comment is here somewhere. Here it is. I love Raw Flash. Did you know this, DF? Did you know this existed? I love Raw Flash. He thinks this is, I don't know, man. Anytime somebody has the majority of their words, the first letter of each word capitalized, I always assume boomer. It is, I'm pretty sure it is misspelled, unless that's a different one. The text is mirrored on like Tracy Armory or something. What was I doing next? Item concepts. I'm so excited. So yeah, this will be the first time we are defining items in the definition file. Although I will need to obviously define the items at the same time in Visual Studio Code. But whatever. Whatever, man. I was thinking that the parasite, what do you call it? You know, the parasite behavior where you spawn units on death could be kind of interesting if you had like a, that would be probably be a tyrant weapon or something, or like maybe a glove. That would be pretty high up tier wise. So we're probably talking a masterwork glove that spawns one like lesser miscreant per hit onto the unit. So each attack adds a stack, and for each stack, the number of units is increased by one. Obviously, it could get insane if you have high attack speed, but that's what we like to see. Even though that's a tyrant weapon, it would work really well with like Nemesis or whatever. It probably wouldn't work super well with high damage. So something like a Firebrand, where it's like long range, single shot or whatever, wouldn't be as efficacious. So, could be big. Could be big. I will say it's going to be a lot more reasonable to make something like this. We literally just duplicate this, say glove. Okay, the item is, I don't know, something. It's a masterwork item. It'll cost, I don't know, 1,500. We'll say energy siphon 2. Oh, that's a percentage. We'll say 5. I hope he has many. I hope he posts at least 3 comments. It is going to trigger me that I still have this ability syntax over here, but whatever. We also need to pick an icon for it. I'm sure this will be easy. Hey, here's another idea. Fan submissions. Which unit icon looks the most like an item that you could wear? Not like regular icon, like upgrade icon or something. Unit icon. I need a unit icon to use as an item. Could be pretty funny, I think. At some point, I should probably rip out the Warcraft 3 graphics and icon them all. Reuse this one for now. I could probably use the larva for something. The nuclear missile icon is a funny tall hat. Where is it? I can kind of see it. Oh, wait. It's just tyrant infection. Well, I'll never find it here. So you can tell me what it is on this page. And I'll slap some of this together. Plant hat. Well, the only other one was this, which doesn't really look like a hat. I forget which one this is. Oh, it's Tyrant. Ah, that's yeah, that's a structure I don't use anymore. That used to be the Celestial Shrine. And I think before that it used to be the Principality. Or no. I don't know. It was one of those two. I think it's just Celestial Shrine. All right, that should theoretically be fine. I actually don't remember if I already have Tyrant gloves or not at the Masterwork tier. Nope. The first of many. All right, let's slap this up. Pulsite. Oh, it's still called Iron Fingers. Somehow. All right, that's in. Where's my imposing cap? There it is. Ah, it's called Hypnotic Home. I really fucked this one up, guys. Imagine actually putting that on your head. Well, now you don't need to imagine, for it exists. It definitely takes more time than I would like to do both of these data entries at the same time, so would definitely be nice to hurry up with that system that Vic and I have been talking about. Where we can just automatically generate these files from the definition files. Generate these web pages, I mean. The Vikener is still not here yet. SMH. All right, I will take this moment to BRB, and whence I return, I don't know what we'll do actually. I guess I'll look for more ideas for items, but the process of doing data entry twice is pretty annoying. So can't promise that. We might do something completely unrelated. We shall see. BRB. All right, I'm back. So the other thing that I could do conceptually is consult our stuff. Immerse myself once again in the documentation and see where that takes us. You know, what's really dumb is that my freezer is very overactive. And so if I don't take like 20 ice cubes per cup of water, it overflows. Just thought I'd share that. So yeah, basically any entity work I do now is going to get doubled data entry-wise. That's noisy. There. Oh yeah, well, ice tile set is my favorite tile set. How's that? You know, I was thinking recently it would be really nice to make the next couple maps in Antikythera instead of Brood War for a number of reasons. Not the least of which being let's see here. Did I miss anything? I don't. Oh. I actually don't know if our stuff matches up here. One of the reasons why it would be really cool. Reverse 4, by the way. What the fuck? I wonder what that was supposed to mean once upon a time. Prank. I really don't remember what I was saying at all. Something about... Oh, yeah. I wanted to do stuff like have basically all the tile sets in one tile set, but I obviously can't do that. Pretty annoying. Apparently these are incorrect. I forget what the replacement was, though. Oh, it's step instead of frame. Okay. For a while, this was so involved that I couldn't actually navigate it to see if there were any actual typos. Because there's so many, there's still a lot of things, like type and category don't matter. I guess I can, like, if I wanted to, I could replace this with that. I would at least fix that stuff. Not sure what we'll do about these go-tos. Not sure about rotate either. This condition and whatnot. This variant, which we don't support yet. Oh yeah, splash isn't implemented yet for weapons, so that's something Vik has to do. This is what something's really confusing me about this. Oh, the /n needs to be on the same line, so that's probably got something to do with it. Yeah, like this. It's always /n. Fucking N. Shout out to N for voice acting hoop throwers. Cool stuff. Big fan. Alright, I think that's most of them anyway. Yeah, we know charge and stuff isn't going to be here yet. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else. Oh, 238. Oh yeah, detector was going to be a flag or something. That's not really that big of a deal though. Easy fix. Okay. Let's close and relaunch. This window is pretty useful for a lot of reasons. Oh, that's a good one. Order Trojan hot drop. Easy fix on that one. Portrait doesn't exist yet. That's fine. I guess we could process more portrait assets. That's something that makes a lot of sense. 1221. I'm guessing that there's like, I don't know why. Why would while show up there? 1338. I don't even see the... Maybe it's this? I don't know, like, that's really weird. There's probably some invisible character change from a paste, maybe, I don't know. Set, yeah, that's fine. What is after? 2 and 3. Don't know about that one. Maybe it's like reaching the end of the line or something, and that's breaking it. I don't know. Really confused by that one. So now the only weapon errors will be splash. Tile sheets, whatever. I don't really care about that. Units have editor type category, that's all resolved. Portrait's not going to be resolved. Time life is not going to be resolved, and this is resolved. So that's fine. If we jump back to sprite sheets, we're going to have a lot of invalid animations. There's another row start somewhere. It's the last one. You can see how important it is to clean up a lot of these so that we can actually see valid errors instead of garbage. At some point, I'll discuss the rest of these with Vic. He's still in the middle of his refactor. At least we can build a program now. All right. Let's go. I can't really figure out what's going on with those. That's probably just some weird end of character thing. I'm noticing this sound flag thing, but I don't know. We just don't have that flag yet, that's all. We don't actually have support for stopping sounds that are playing yet. We will eventually add that. Okay. All right, that's fine. I will actually launch the game for real. All right. I wanted to see something. Vic said dropping this on the program should open it. Doesn't appear to. So if we... do this. Cool, that works. He mentioned dropping it on the program, and then I mentioned that StarCraft 2 used to support dropping it on the EXE. And he said, yeah, we support that too. So I figured that meant that there were distinctions. All right. So one thing that I've noticed for units, right? Oh, middle click actually lets me place these, although it fucks up the... I don't know what's going on here. Middle click might have broken something, I'm not sure. My cursor is now forever placing ends. It's over, boys. So it actually looks like we, our editor categories were doing something here. I don't know what the fuck is going on here. What is this? I'm scared, boys. I fucked something up. Ah! I have an Empress. How did that happen? Something's happening. Alright, let me just close this. Did that actually process any... I don't think I saved it, which is just as well. Alright, let's go back into units. And if we undo our changes here, I wonder if that will fix what we just experienced. I've met my end. That is true. What the fuck? Oh! PK. To be honest, this might just be a prank anyway, so... Okay. If I, does anybody know if I slash n in command line, will it create a new line for the commit message? This doesn't really tell me anything. Do I need to... Milestone would probably know, but he's 9 minutes behind, so... Owned. Oh, okay. Well, I don't really like that there's a line break between them all, but at least I have some idea of how to do it now. How do I get the commit? Is it just the first 7 characters? DAE 9655. That's so weird. I guess it's not the first. It's probably the first 7, and then like it auto completes the rest based on like common sense shit. So if I do get checkout DAE 9655. All right. So the reason why I wanted to do this is because if I launch this and then I go into unit. Okay, it looks like it's fucked anyway. And this is with an older commit. It's definitely still fucked. So I'm just assuming it's not me who did that. I was just trying to see if my changes fucked something, but I guess it's been fucked. So if I don't do M, it should open Notepad. Oh, I see. So here I could say... Why is it in red? The fuck? Anybody know why? I have no idea. I don't recall actually doing anything, so. Owned. Yeah, it's not red with another, it's not related to that as far as I can. The fuck did I just do? All right, I don't know what happened. I broke it. See ya. How do I set up an editor? Let's find that out. Get set up get commit message editor. I don't know. I don't suppose I can just do notepad.exe and have it work. It worked. So, what exactly happens here? Do I need to type the message above? I guess I have to type the message above, right? It says, start working on custom AI for favored fiction. Resolve or update on canon, attack animation, and icon. And Iron Foundry to test map. Yeah, but unfortunately, as you can see by this commit message, the new line stuff doesn't seem to have worked. So, get log. Oh, it does work on this log, so I guess that's fine. Yeah, of course, deleting system 32. Okay. That makes sense. Bit of a weird way of demonstrating it, but. Type another message in YouTube chat, Milestone. Nice try, fucking idiot. Bye. I mean, this is why we set up the Discord thing in the first place, if people remember. It was a fun gimmick for one stream, but the fact that it's continued this long is just embarrassing. Do something that gives back to society, in my opinion. Zero clue. Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure I know who it is, but it's nobody anybody here would actually know, so it's just somebody who's been irrelevant for a long time. Or basically forever, but. They were on the server. Then they received stacked bans. Again, no, I don't think anybody who's like very few people who are still active know who it is. So. It looks like the terrain is still legit, so I can still edit tile sheets, which is pretty nice. Well, Viker, you could probably help me at some point by fixing whatever broke here. I already tested by checking out before my latest changes to the point where I had only fixed the duplicates, and it was still breaking like this. So I assume it's something to do with your stuff, whatever it's called, your refactor. But it's pretty funny. Yeah, I figured that out from the context. So, this is what we got done so far in the stream. We converted splash to a singular field and weapons def. We overhauled orders def for entity names for units. We still haven't done it for items and for training. And then I did a couple item concepts. We talked a little bit about hit points regen and hit points, or hit point regen and hit points instead of HP and HP regen, because HP is in items, but units have hit points, so it's pretty annoying. I guess we could just convert it the other way around. But until we have a GUI, it's going to be really annoying to try to look for HP because it's such a small field. It is, however, just the problem of working with an enormous monolithic text file. That's why another reason why we would prefer to have GUI stuff. I'm not sure if we should actually remove punctuation in lower snake case. I know that's what a lot of things do happen when they use lower snake case, so I put that in there as like a question mark. And then we need a stat for unload rate for transports at some point. So this is done. We did this. And now I am attempting to port some tiles. I know you initially changed it because hit points and hit points regen didn't make sense. But I think if we just set it to hit point underscore regen, it should be fine. Or we can bite the bullet and have hit points underscore regen for clarity or whatever. But anyway, it's mostly a patchwork fix until we have the GUI operational. Yeah, that's fine. So I need to take a look at how this is implemented for the other. If I go to assets, sprite sheets, so not tile sheets. So Badlands Cliff is just that, but then there's the Badlands Cliff mask, which is, if I'm not mistaken, it's just the upper mask. So here's where we would take. No, that's not what I need. Right, so I forget how I set this up before. I think I need the. I need to do something like that. And then I need to do something like this. And then I need to duplicate that into a PNG, and we'll call this desert, what is it? Cliff mask. Now, before I did anything like that, now I'm pretty sure we can just toggle this. We do need to extend this. Oops. Need to extend this down by 64. And another 64. Okay, I think that's everything we need to relocate. And we don't need to save the changes to the document, obviously. Oh, I probably should have kept that open because obviously I do need to save changes to the document. Oh, man. Oops, wrong one. That's okay. What? Oh, that just looks fucked because I didn't actually move the layer down. That's actually fine. So now we just duplicate this again. Now I get to do the fun part of actually defining these images. So we got west, east, west, east. I have to get super fucking close here. No, DF's being sarcastic. No, that's not actually a consistent factor. That was just whoever they... That was just them fucking up, to be honest. Normally, it's impossible to tell the difference. So it looks like this is just west, east, west, east. And then west. Although, wait a second. It's actually quite hard for me to immediately ascertain what is what here. So west, east, west, east, west, east, west, east. This is outer. Oh, wait. I'm forgetting that not all of these are even necessary. Which ones are? Which ones did we end up keeping? All right, so this is where I kind of pranked myself. So I don't actually need these, or these, or these, right? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now what I do need is these. This is east, west, east, west, west, east, east, west. Okay. So it starts out as, where is it? East, west, east, west, west, east, east, west. Okay. And there's one of those tiles, 8 of these tiles. I guess there's 8 of all of those. And for inners, we know there are 3. For outers, we've got 8 again. I know for souths and for norths. Okay. Now we just need to verify that the counts are correct as well. I mean the starting points. So let's do that. Yes, it can count to 3, surprisingly. So I know all those are correct, down to the inners, We have, 1, 2. Oh, let me just do this over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wait. Oh, because we're starting 0, right? We start 0, yeah. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So then we have 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Okay, cool. So that should be fine. Should be, being the operative word. Because the other thing that I'm not sure about is because Blizzard did that weird thing where they mirrored the bottom half of the tiles. And I think I know why they did this, but they did it all the same. That does mean that we are sat with a rough spot here. Hey, V, can I update the enum in-game to point to new assets and stuff without restarting, or do I have to restart? I'm trying to add this cliff tile, right? So, okay, we don't have hot loading for assets yet. Also, I tried dragging it onto the map onto an open instance of the game, and it didn't work. So, very sad. I'll have to rename that file. It looks like I've misdefined that, or what? Oh, I see. I forgot that it's weird like that. I guess we'll have to add the brighter dirt color later, but for now I can probably just... There you go. I basically made high dirt on the spot from normal dirt, so whatever. Yeah, YouTube chat doesn't update as fast as it should. Refactor broke it? What do you mean refactor broke it? Oh, you were probably talking about the tiles. Refactor definitely seems to have broken this. I can't place units, which is pretty unfortunate. Alright, so this cliff seems to work fine, though. Eventually we'll need better fog of war. Forgot about that. Oh. Yeah, that I don't know about. It doesn't look like I can do... Oh. I can do thin cliffs. Check it out. Oh my god. Spin. That's pretty nice. Oh. I have to move it up so that it's not blocked by that. That's pretty funny. Didn't you just say not to feed the trolls, dude? Come on. Wake up. I wonder if we just don't have that defined properly. Oh, that's an interesting bug. That should be south inner. Specifically south inner west, I think. Oh no, I guess it's east, right? So south inner east is listed as row 25, which is actually row 26 because it's zero based. So if I go back to assets, tile sheets, this, we have so this last one down here should be it. Right? So I don't know what happened there. Because instead it's a west-facing tile when it should be east. I don't know. And here we have this should be north inner, which would be this row here, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it would be. And then the one in the middle should be inner inner, and the one in the bottom should be south inner. So this should be like south inner west. This is inner inner east, and then this is north inner west. So I'll just add that. Yeah, I'm not sure if the plating stuff might actually just be incorrectly defined. What's up, Loler Man? Welcome to the show. Welcome. All right. So from 2, 3. Yep. Northwest, northeast, southeast, southwest. Outer west, outer east. Inner east, inner west. Northwest then, northeast then, southwest then, southeast. Oh no, this is north, inner west then, north, inner east then. So these are all defined correctly as far as I can tell, right? Unless I'm hallucinating. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So the first thin should be 18. Indeed it is. 19, 20, 21. 22, 23, 24, 25. This should be a super easy test case too because it's so basic. I wonder what could possibly be going on there. So let's open up a map in SEM Draft so that we can draw this same exact shape. Find an area. This is bing, bing, bing. Bong, bong. Oops. So bing, 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 bong, bong, bing. Aha. It's 2 bings. It's 3, well, it's actually 4 bongs, but it's like 2 bings, a bong, a bing, bing, bong, bong. Bong, 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 bong. So this is actually a valid shape. And this tile here should be that's south inner east thin. Okay. Oh shit, did you see something? Oh, you did. Even I didn't see that. It's okay. Eyeball emoji. Yeah, I really don't know. There's a lot of tile bugs still. Let's see. South inner, east thinner is like the... That's like basically the very end of it. It's right here, right? So this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. That should be 22. South inner, east thin. So yeah, that is actually correctly defined according to our graphic. So it must be an issue with the tile generation. You're going to say it's absurd. It's not absurd at all, dude. Okay, I'll hit you with it. Each bing is up into the right, and each bong is down into the right. And if it's just to the right, it's a bong too. We have more bongs than bings. I guess you could do some more advanced calculation if you wanted to do, like, it's a bong, 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 bing. So bong, 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 and then bong, bing, because you know you're still on the same height level. And so they cancel each other out, but you're still going right, because right is progress. And then this would be a bing, bing, bong, because you're starting at the top and then going to the right, and they cancel each other out again. And then you go bong, because you're going down. So this would be, to draw the top part, it would be bong, bing, bing, bong, bong. And this is bong, 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 bing. And then you fill in the rest. What are bangs? I think bang is what you say when you're done. That's when you fill in the rest. You say bang. So you could probably create a there's like gesture-based computation, and so you could probably create a speech-based computation. It'd be like, okay, new bang, and you would say like, you'd say bong, 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 bang, bing, and then you would say, I don't know what you would say to go back, but you'd figure out something to go back. You just say "and" in order to return, and then you say "bing, bing, bing, bong, bong," and suddenly you've drawn the shape. Oh, you say "bong" again, and then you say "bang" and it fills it in for you, and that's how you draw a shape in this engine. Yeah. Yeah, you would say nib or gnib. Yeah, gnib is a bit too much. I do like fuck for undo. That'd be fun. Yeah, bigs, bing bong plus plus language, bings, bongs, and bangs are the best building blocks. Pretty easy, dude. Just saying. B plus plus. There is a B language out there. I've never used it though. I'm pretty sure it's a meme. Oh, I didn't realize I was using ice mud here. I guess that makes sense. What is this anyway? Is this just dirt? I think so. No. Put it back to dirt. My mistake. Got some snow. We got some mud. This is a good meme. I don't know what we're gonna do about moguls. Dude, you can do anything your heart desires in this engine. I don't think I ever fully, what did I do with Bottomless Pit? I don't think I obviously didn't ever finish it. I see the mask here, but I think the mask is fucked. I don't know, it's hard for me to tell. I don't know. I sent you some specs for the changes to the tile generation. Obviously, it's not, I know you're doing other things right now, but when you get around to refactoring that code, you might want to look into the bugs that I'm finding. You did say that some of the tiles were just incorrectly defined, so I'm willing to bet that that is indeed the case. But as we bing-bonged earlier, we know how to draw some legit shapes. And it seems like it's a pretty common occurrence that the inner tile here is not correct. Editor mask, you're saying that the mask should have, like, it should have something in it. That might be the case. I'm not really sure. Why do we need a mask for bottomless pit exactly? I could put bottomless pit on bottomless pit. That's pretty cool. Can put ruins there. We go back to tile. We can then do this. Oops. Oh, wait, this is way... I need to go find the bottomless pit layer again. Oh, but then yeah, that's a bit whack. We can't have the mask also inherit... Oh, I guess it does still inherit the what's underneath this. That's fine. But yeah, I still don't think the mask is actually necessary here. I already checked whether they were misdefined or not. Unless you mean, like, the keyword I'm using is wrong. But yeah, oh, you know what it is? I think the mask is supposed to be inverted so you can mask out what's within the bottomless pit. That's probably what the mask is for. That makes sense. So if I literally just, like... do this... this might eat into the... Wait, where is it? Installation... It might eat into the asset a bit, but that would probably be something that I could do. What do you mean keyword is flipped? All right, you told me that I should take a look at Badlands Cliff for it. I think the directions are wrong in the engine then, because I manually just confirmed that it's fine. So you actually need to fix that in the engine side. I will show you what I mean. So what's supposed to be here is an inverted tile. This tile, when you're following the up angle, here, it'll probably be easier for me to show it in the actual dirt cliff file. Well, it's obviously the direction is relative to the way that you're looking at it. In this case, I always looked at it like we were drawing a I don't know what I'm doing. I always looked at it like we were going up and then opposite the direction of the higher level tile piece. So this is up and to the left, which is west. This is up and to the right, which is east. So that's always how I've done it. And so that's how I've written it down. Which means Badlands is the one that's fucked. But it's probably fucked because you and I were both editing it so that it would work with whatever we defined, which just means that the engine stuff is what's fucked. But that doesn't really make any sense to me because I'm pretty sure the Badlands Cliff is only selectively fucked. Like, this should be northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast, outer west, outer east, inner west, inner east. Yeah, northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast. Yeah. So only when we get to the thins is it fucked? No, this is northeast, northwest, northwest, northeast. So northeast, northwest, north inner west, north inner east. No, this is correct. So why is it broken on the other ones? Inner west, inner east is correct over here. Oh no, this is inner east, inner west, which is probably what I have. Oh no, I don't. What the fuck? We have west, east, east, west, east, west. This is east, west. So oh wait, I'm editing these wrong. Yeah, east, west, west, east. And then we have, for the souths, it's east, west. And for the inner, it's east, west. So these are the ones that are flipped. These are the only ones that are flipped, though. So I'm at a loss. Right now, I've already done a bunch of data entry for Onitar stuff, so I am switching gears and working on some asset processing. The demo for Onitar will have some, we'll mostly be using a bunch of proprietary assets, and then once we get to the point where we're entering full-scale asset production, it'll be a nice little way for us to do some other things. Apparently you are offline. Did you know? Eventually we'll have a GUI, yeah. Not sure what it'll look like, but something that won't require us to manually enter everything in by hand, yeah. You'll probably be able to like scroll through the list and then pick a group or whatever. I don't know. At the same time, I'm not sure if we'll have tile-based, in air quotes, terrain or whatever. I'm not sure what the final look of our tiles will be like, how they're constructed and such. Thanks, homie. I'm almost done here too myself. Cheers for hanging. See you next time. I do like that the window still says best RTS ever made. When it don't even exist yet, homie. Okay. I think we'll stop there for now. I obviously need to consider what to do next. Probably portrait stuff later on. I can't realistically do too much for ideas for item concepts. I mean, I can, but it's really annoying having to do double data entry. So we'll consider that. We'll take a look at what we're going to do there. But yeah, it would be nice to start working on something playable. We'll see how soon we can do something like that. And that is where I will leave y'all for now. And when I return tomorrow to do another one of these streams, I'm not sure exactly what we'll do, but I'm sure we'll have some fun. Probably try to do a test map or something. Maybe port some more assets. So stay tuned for the asset stream tomorrow, and bye.